Welcome to the Breathe Conversations. This series explores how people operate as responsibility, ambition, and pressure grow over time. These are not burnout stories, and they're not about fixing anything. They're calm, honest conversations about awareness, capacity, and what helps performance last. Today, we're joined by a special guest. We have got Marion. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't we start with a little introduction about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, that's fine. My name is Marion. As you can hear on my accent, I'm not from the UK. I live in the Netherlands. I'm a property investor in the UK, helping a lot of Dutch investors to the UK property market, which is quite interesting and gives me a lot of energy. Um, Personal, I live in the south of the Netherlands with my family. My kids are already grown. They have their own families. I am a grandma for a lot of years now, which is very, very enjoying. The little ones give me a lot of pleasure and energy, which is nice. Um, my background, I was in the banking industry for quite a long time. Built a lot of teams, which I really, really love. I love people much more than I love the numbers. And maybe that's why I'm in property, because property is also a people's business, which I really, really like. After the banking industry, I started my own coaching and training office in the Netherlands, coached and trained a lot of management teams and directors of all kinds of companies, which was very, very nice because you always can look inside other um, buildings and other enterprises, which was very, very nice. So always interested in people.
Amazing. So your energy clearly comes from working with and around other people. How did you transition from banking into property? What happened there?
That's a funny story. That's a funny story. But everybody thought that I was completely crazy because I started in property in 2015. I was the first Dutch, yeah, a girl that was in property in the UK. So I didn't know anything. I only went to London once for shopping. So tick that off, that box off, because as a girl, you once in your life, you need to go shopping in London. So I did that. And that was it. I didn't know anybody in the UK. I coached a company in the USA, and, I met a guy who was in property. It's a funny story. And then he said, why aren't you in property? I said, That's very clear, because I don't have 1 million in the bank." And he said, "Oh, but you don't need money to go into property." And I said, Yeah, I think you do." And he said, "No, no, no, you can use OPM." Never heard of OPM. And OPM stood for other people's money. So he explained how he did it, and I was listening, and I was thought, "Oh my God, if it is this simple, why isn't everybody doing it?" And then he told me, "Listen, if nobody tells you how it works, you don't know, and then you're not doing it. So I dare you find a property market where the rental income comparing to the housing prices is high, and where you can evict the tenant if he's not paying." So the Netherlands was a difficult market then. So I looked at other places, and yeah, the UK came up, and that's how I started.
Amazing. And how long did it take before you were full time in property?
Oh, that took quite a while, because there's also, on one side there's business, and on the other side there's your personal life. And my personal life was, we had a very big accident happening. My husband had a car accident, and we had our own businesses. We both had our own business, and when he got crashed with his car, he couldn't work, so he lost his company. I just started a new company, so there wasn't that much money. So I had to build it up from scratch again with somebody that I had to take care of, my husband. So yeah, those were tough times. And then I realized I don't have a pension, but I still got a small portfolio of properties in the UK. So I thought, you know what, they could be my pension. And then I started again and yeah, bought some new properties with a business partner.
Yeah, that must have been a really difficult time having to manage work, family life, all of a sudden becoming a caregiver as well. How did you manage all of that? That must have been a real big change.
My God, yes, yes, it was. It was, and yeah, we're lucky because he's doing quite all right now. But the first 6 years they were just hell because there was no money. Because when you have your own business and from one day to another the business is completely gone because you are the business, so there was no money, but you know, you have to pay your mortgages and you have to pay for your car and all your daily expenses go on. So yeah, and I managed, and then I realized we are so much stronger than we think we are. Yeah.
100%. And also, I bet the fact that you had each other made a huge difference to going through all of that.
Yeah, I think love is the most strong emotion there is. Yeah, and I'm a lucky girl, you know, so I found the love of my life, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference when you do. And they do say love is the strongest drug. So
It is.
it gets you through all sorts of pain and gets you through all the lows in life. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad that you're kind of out of the tricky side of it now, and that you're being able to enjoy it, and that you've made a lot of progress in your property stuff. From what I know now, you're doing very well.
Yes.
And obviously your background in banking, that is very different to the structure of working for yourself, especially as a people person, we call it. We with blazes, dynamos, the wealth dynamics, we could be quite scattered. We're not necessarily good at organizing, not very good at controlling our own day. So how did you transition from having a place to go to work to all of a sudden running your own calendar?
That was very difficult. But I learned a lot when I was in the banking industry, and what I did and my talent was building teams and selecting the right people for the right place. Um, and I have a lot of blaze energy, which the other side of that is I was in one bank branch um, managing for 3 years, 3.5 years, and then I got bored because then the team was ready, and I got free time, you know, and then there were two things could happen. The best thing was I'm going to another branch with a lot of noise in it and a team that doesn't work, so they put me there, so build it up again, which was really really nice. And if there wasn't another place, you know, places gonna screw up things, you know, to keep it exciting, and which that was not so good. No.
No, but you, I remember the other day you said that you love problems.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love problems. Yeah, and you know what? I had quite a lot of problems in my life. Yeah, yeah,
But you
yeah,
always solve them. You're a magician.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
now you are full-time property, what does your day-to-day life look like?
Yeah, I need to organize some things. So, when I was in my own coaching and training business, I had an amazing office manager. She was completely steel energy, you know. So when I came with creative things, she just took it out of my hands, organizes it, and then it was all done. When I started in property, I didn't have that office manager. So now I'm working with a VA, and I'm now busy selecting a second VA, because otherwise I am writing reports or going after tenants, because it could be a noisy business, and that's not what I want. No.
No, definitely not. And it's quite hard to let go though, isn't it? And hard to trust other people. You've obviously got experience managing other teams, which is an incredible skill and trait to have. But when it's your own business, it's like your baby, isn't it? You find it a little bit harder to pass things over.
Yeah, you know what? I love the energy, but deep inside, I'm a control freak. You know, I want to be on top of it, seeing what everybody is doing. So yeah, that's hard, even because I'm from overseas. So it is not like some people have properties in the area that they live, which is quite easy, because if something is wrong, you get in your car and you just drive there, and then you see what's going on. For me, it's completely different, because if something is the matter, I have to trust other people to go and find out what really is wrong, and fix it.
Yeah, and how does that work? Because there's obviously pros and cons to being out of the UK in that you're forced to have a team on the ground that does it for you. And I think that that is a huge bonus from day one is that a lot of us get wrapped up in the noise and then we don't know how to pass it on, whereas you've had to do that. But in terms of traveling back and forth from the UK, I know that you attend Property Entrepreneur in person. I know that you come back for viewings occasionally. So how do you find the traveling in your schedule? Because it's not always consistent, is it? It can be quite sporadic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes you miss family things because you're traveling. Some months are a little more quiet than other months. This month of March, is a very very busy month. This month I'm traveling to the UK once a week at least, so that's quite a lot. And then I know in April things get more quiet, because I arranged everything with my new property manager. I set up the systems, and yeah, and then it gets easier. But I love to talk to people in person, because if you are actually on the ground, you can see what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, it is nice to be there, but equally it must be quite exhausting going back and forth. I guess one benefit about airports is you get a lot of work done usually because there's no distractions, but that must eat into a lot of time with the traveling.
Yeah. That's it. It's very, very time consuming, and you're working on really, really strange hours. So when you're waiting for a flight, or the best thing of the airport is the airport lounges, which is very, very convenient, because it's quiet in there. There's food and drinks, and you can work. Yeah.
And how are you finding it with your sleep pattern? Because obviously you're going to have some of the flights that are quite late or quite early. How does it affect your sleep?
Not. Everybody has it. I think when we all have our groups, and when I look at sleep, I'm approximately somewhere between 95 and 99%, and I always had that, even when I was a kid. When I go to sleep, I sleep. The only thing I notice is when I travel a lot, I love to go um the same time to bed every day. But when you're traveling, yeah, the time isn't the same every day. So you can see it in the recovery, but it takes just one day, and then I'm up and running again. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the key, isn't it? You can go one day out of schedule, but as long as you get back into schedule, then it's okay. And it sounds like you have a really good sleep routine. So do you go to bed at the same time every day? What time?
And 15 uh, um 10:30.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's around the same as me.
yeah, that's it. And I'll get up. I don't have curtains in my bedroom. My husband always say you look like you're some sort of a chicken, you know. When it gets dark, you go to sleep, and when it's light, you're up. So, but that's what I love. So in the summer, I sleep not as much as I sleep in winter because the sun wakes me up, and I really love that. When the lights when it's light, I go up. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you know what? Biologically, that's what we're wired for. We should be waking and sleeping with the sunset and the sunrise. So the fact that you don't have curtains in your bedroom is amazing. I mean, we have a lot of street lamps around here, so we can't do that because the light shines in through the room. But I'm thinking of buying one of those Lumi lights. It like wakes you up with the sun, sunrise, the fake one.
Yeah, they work really really well because when I was living in the city center years and years ago, they just were invented, and it's the same when you say I had curtains because otherwise the street lights are in your bedroom, and it works really well, but not as good as the real sun that wakes you up every morning. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Do you
really
ever
love that.
manage to get outside in it as well?
I'm sorry, do I?
Do you ever go outside and get some natural sunlight as well?
Yes, every morning. I do every morning I do my morning walk. So when I'm up, first thing I do is put on my clothes and my shoes, and I go for a morning walk. That's just I live in the countryside, so it's just one block that I can walk. It's approximately 3.5 kilometers. It's not that far, but it's yeah 25 to 35 minutes depends on how tired I get out of bed. And that's amazing. When I go home, you know, then I'll take a shower and I do my breakfast, and I'm full of energy. It works really, really well.
Yeah, you've got a really nice little morning routine there. And what I like about it is it's not really complicated. It's nice and simple.
No, no, it is, and this is age, you know. I'm not a young girl anymore. Sometimes I feel like a young girl, but when I look in the mirror, I say, "Oh no, you're not there anymore." But but I used to be a real goal getter. You know, when I go to the gym, it was all or nothing. You know, just always full out. Um, but now I can't do that anymore because if I go full out or I go over the line, I have to pay this for the payback is 2, 3 days, and I'm really, really exhausted. So now I'm doing more the quiet stuff, but more regularly. So every morning I do my morning walk, and um, I have to shoot videos, which I really, really hate. And most of the time I do it in a midday, a lunch walk or something like that, you know. So I'll take my headphone and yeah, I go for another walk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I think that that is key as well. Is so I have a very slow morning, quite similar to you. I get up, I get my natural light. I don't go for a walk first thing. I tend to do that in the afternoon, but I get my natural light outside and I have my coffee outside with my glass of water. And then I have breakfast, and then I write my list of what I'm gonna do for the day, and then I get started. But I take it slowly, I don't rush it, but I don't have 20 steps in my morning routine. I think that people hear morning routine or miracle morning, and they get a bit carried away, and they want a million things, but it you can't keep up with it.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. That's something that I really had to learn. It's like I say, if you have blaze energy, it's all or nothing, you
Yeah,
know? When somebody says, "Oh, we go for a run." Okay, let's start with 5 kilometers, which is completely ridiculous, you know? If you just start slow and build it up. No, it's go full out, then I have so much muscle pain for the next 2 days. You don't do anything at all, you know,
yeah.
which is yeah, that and now it's I had to learn to take it a little slower, but it's more consistent, which is, I think, much better for your body.
Yeah, and it's first thing in the morning, which means that you're entering the day in a calm state, which is super important. If you wake up all rushed and chaotic, which I'm sure everyone does it at points where you've missed your alarm or you've slept in a little bit longer than you thought and you're rushing around, the rest of your day is bound to be chaotic. But if you start it calmly and slowly like you do, then you're much more on track to have a calm and consistent day as well. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's not always easy, because sometimes I have a lot of work, so it's like the devil is chasing me, and then but yeah, I said no, no, no. First my walk, and then we'll do the rest. And then you when you come home, it is like you know, and the devil is still there because you still have to rush or finish things or but it's yeah, the slow start is really, really, really great way to start your day.
Definitely. And do you, even when you're traveling around, do you still have that same morning routine wherever you go?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What about your evening? You've got your morning routine. Do you have an evening routine?
Um yeah, I didn't watch TV for very long time. Um but yeah, sometimes I watch TV, not too long, just a simple movie or something like that, and I really love that because it relaxes me. You don't have to think about anything, and which is so funny because before my husband had his accident, he was really into um uh, how do you say it, action movies. He really loved them. So sometimes we go to the cinema and watch action movies, and but after the accident, his brain couldn't cope with all the action. So we started watching rom-coms, simple love stories, and it's very, very relaxing. You have a laugh. You don't have to think about it. It's not all images that are flickering in front of you. So it's just it's sometimes it's a nice way of yeah, ending the day.
Yeah, much more relaxing than an action film for sure.
Yeah, 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 it is. It is. And it's so funny because um, when I look like an action movie or something exciting, and then the next morning, I can feel that my brain was still busy all night solving problems which aren't even my problems. They were in a movie, which is really, really, yeah, it is funny.
It is true though, like the anxiety and sort of the stress that these films cause you, which is obviously the intention from them. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not. It depends what film you're watching, but your body doesn't know the difference between it being real and it being fake. So it's still going to go through the process of having to like let it sink in and work through it. So you make a really good point. It is like proven that it doesn't know the difference between something that's real and something that's not in terms of your stress. So you have to recover from that either way. So yeah, maybe the romantic films are definitely the way to go for the evening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I yeah, I think they are better, and it's like you say because your brain doesn't know if it is for real, if it is imagination, if it is happening. The flight or fight or freeze reaction is still there, which is yeah, I think it's fascinating how your brain works and how you, uh, without even knowing it, how you steer from your brain by the language you use, which
Yeah.
is it's yeah. But I've been in a coaching and training business for a very long time. I always everybody tells me you've always been a coach. Even when I was little. When my girlfriends had troubles or when they fell in love or something like that. in the middle of the night, I was still on the phone with them. Just no, this is okay. There will be another one. This is not the end of the world. Listen to what you say to yourself. So, um, yeah, I think that is very, very important to be aware of the language you use for yourself.
Definitely. And it affects so many different parts of your body and the way that you function when you are in that fight or flight mode. And a lot of people don't realize that they're in like a low level mode of that constantly. They never exit it. And that's like the slow mornings and going to bed at the same time. That shows that your body is safe and your brain loves safety. So it wants to know what's happening, and having those routines is crucial to your brain actually being able to go into the rest and digest mode. So you're absolutely nailing it on that. Obviously, though, property is not always smooth sailing. We all know
Oh
that.
my God, no,
So
no.
how do you deal with the stressful days? How do you deal with it when things don't go quite to plan?
You know, I know there will always be another day. And whatever happens, it's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, I'm still breathing. Maybe things weren't going the way I would like them to go. But sometimes it's better to just leave it there, do two steps back and look at it from a different perspective instead of sitting in the middle of the problems, because you don't have the overview then. So sometimes you have to step back and look from another place. Yeah.
Yeah. I also find speaking to other people about it is really helpful because they see things that you don't. When you're wrapped up in it, sometimes you just can't see the end. So other people's perspectives can be super helpful.
Yeah, that's what I love about the communities that I'm in. People are always helping each other, and I think there's also a cultural difference between the UK and the Netherlands. We have a lot of Dutch investors building a community and helping each other, but it's always different from the UK. I think in the UK the networks are much more helpful and ready to help each other. And the Dutch people, they are more individualistic. They hold their cards to their chest. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing because maybe you're going to steal my idea. And I think this is completely nonsense because the world is more than big enough. There's lots of opportunities for everybody. So just step up and help each other. Yeah, and sometimes that's difficult. That's what I love about being in the networks in the UK. People are sharing, yeah, opportunities and also problems.
Yeah,
And
and
it's like you say, if you can share your problems, half of them is already solved.
and it's interesting. I'd never really thought of the culture differences between where you are in the UK, and it is true. Everyone in the UK is willing to help. You get a few negative people, a few people that aren't interested, but you just distance yourself from them, and then it's fine. Whereas I didn't realize that you don't have that sort of same experience where you are.
Yeah, and there are more cultural differences. Um, I'm Dutch, so Dutch people are highly regulated. Everything is organized. There are forms for everything. Um, yeah, if you buy a house in the Netherlands, you only work with one solicitor, which saves a lot of noise, so and makes the process very, very quick and smooth. So um yeah, so there are a lot of things that are a little different. Everything's in the Netherlands is mapped and measured. So if for example, if you go to land registry in the Netherlands, you can see exactly where boundaries are. There are measurements. There are centimeters, and yeah, it's all there. It's it's completely different.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you fit into the UK culture very well in terms of wanting to help people and always willing to chat. You're very much a people person. So it definitely works out well. You get the best of both worlds.
Yes, 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 and um, sometimes it's also helpful if you have the Dutch background. Like I always tell my property manager, and yeah, that's a great idea, but let's do it the Dutch way. It'll save a lot of noise in the process, and we can step up really really quickly, and yeah, that it's funny like when we complete a property, um, we do it within 4 weeks and then it's all done, So when people say, oh, but you can't do it. But 4 weeks is a long time, In the Netherlands, you can do it in 2 days. So 4 weeks, very long. Yeah, but we can't do it in 4 weeks. Yes, but if you go to an auction, you have to do it in 4 weeks. So you can do it in 4 weeks. Yeah, so that's what I love.
Yeah, I think there's a few people here who I bet wish had some Dutch culture around.
Yeah, yeah.
So, just to round things off for today, if you had to give someone top 3 tips for staying balanced, transitioning into full-time business, and generally like looking after yourself and slowing down, what would you tell them to do?
I think one of the best ways and that helped me a lot is listen to your body because your body knows. And that's um I think that's to a lot of people that's strange because the body is the vehicle you travel in, and you know what, if I say it has to go like this, it has to go like this. But I believe that a lot of diseases are coming from stress, and becoming because we didn't listen to our bodies. I worked with a lot of when I was still full in the coaching industry. I worked with a lot of stressed out managers, burnouts, and all kinds of things. And when you start talking to those people, they had several signals, but they all ignored the signals, and then they go into a burnout, and then it gets really 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 bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I've
it takes a long time to get out.
Yeah, and I've seen some really bad cases of it, like very physical symptoms, like
Oh my
stroke-like
god.
symptoms, really, really bad. And they go to the doctors and they say you're just stressed, but it's deeper than that. It's not as simple as just going for a spa day. It's consistent, really small habits that you have to do to be able to get out of it.
Yeah, and it's also some sort of acceptance. I had a burnout when I was really young. I was 25. I was managing 5 bank branches. I already had 2 kids, and I was just divorced, which was really, really, really nasty. And then one day I couldn't get out of my bed because my body didn't work. I couldn't sit. I thought I was completely paralyzed. So I asked my kids to help me to get dressed. And my daughter looked at me and said, Mom, when I help you to get dressed, how on earth will you go to your work because you can't stand on your on your 2 feet? So, yeah, I called for the doctor, and he said, you have a severe burnout. And I laughed at him, and I said, you know what, a burnout is that's for people that are weak. I'm not a weak person, so I'm sick. My body is telling me I'm sick. Maybe I have cancer or I don't know what, but I'm sick. And then he said, no, it's just stress. And to let it sink in and realize, oh my God, I had so many signals. The lights were on red, and I just kept going, which was pretty stupid, but I didn't know then because I thought, when I'm not there, everything will collapse because I'm in charge and I have to do it. And then um, the worst part was when I returned to the work floor several months later, everything was still there, you know. There weren't crying customers or something like that. Everybody managed without me being there. That was such a big eye opener. So, yeah, yeah, and I made myself a promise I never ever go back to that place. It's a dark place.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's super hard to recognize. I think when you're stuck in it and you're so deep in it, you can't see it yourself. So I often speak to people who, once they've sort of understood the signs and the symptoms, they're like, I think I might be burning out. Like, I think I might be in this position myself. And I'm like, that's completely okay. It's good that you're recognizing it, firstly. But I'm going to be brutally honest with you. You're a lot further along than you think you are. And this is a lot worse than you think it is. And you need to just take a step back and set some boundaries, look after yourself, because the best gift you can give anyone is the best version of you. And that is, I live by that. And I know that if I'm getting to a point where I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I start dropping my daily habits, I know I'm not a good person to be around. So I need to do it not just for me, but for the people around me, because you can't perform or be a kind person without looking after you.
Yeah, I agree. I
Definitely.
agree.
Well,
And it sounds so simple, but it's hard sometimes.
yeah, people wait until crisis before they do anything. That's what I'm on a mission to stop, is have people have the balance before it gets to that tipping point. But it isn't easy, and it can be really difficult. But I'm glad that you have seen the light at the end of the tunnel and now you're in a really good, healthy position.
Yeah, so listen to your body. That's a top tip. And I think the other tip is believe in yourself, because there are a lot of people that are waiting for the people around them, the environment, to pat them on the back and say, "Oh, you're okay." But you're always okay. You were already okay as a baby. This is who you are. So stay close to yourself and believe in yourself. And I think that I see it with the grandkids. I think it's a um, I don't know. It's a tough world. It's a different world than the world that I grew up in. There are so many things, on the social media. They see a lot of stories that are perfect, and they are comparing themselves with stories because they are just stories. When the camera is off, they most of the storytellers are completely different people. We do everything to get a few likes. And I see a lot of young people that don't believe in themselves anymore because they think they have to keep up with the image that all the influencers are giving. And that is something that makes me really, really, really sad. So I think that the second best tip is believe in yourself, because you are worth more than anything that you can see online, and you're capable of much more than you can ever imagine.
I love that. That is a great tip. And it is so easy to get sucked into social media these days. Too easy, actually. I mean, I had to unfollow huge amounts of people just so that I wasn't comparing my life to someone else's life, which probably isn't even real. So yeah, it can be quite toxic if it's not used in the right way, for sure.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that it's tempting, because when you but look at it, it's so funny when you're waiting for the bus, or you're in the waiting room at the dentist or something like that. 10 years ago, you went into a waiting room, there was always somebody talking, even it was about the weather, but there was connection, people are talking to each other. And now everybody's on his phone, like zombies. And yeah, it's not helping, I think um your brain needs challenges. And yeah, the youth is not challenging themselves. Yeah.
What would your final tip be?
My God, I the final tip, believe it, your body, believe in yourself. I think time is um maybe the third tip. Just you spend your time well, and um we live in a world that is, everybody says um it's not equally divided. Some people have more, some people have less, and some parts of the world are in war. But there's one thing that we all have the same of, and it's time. We all have 24 hours a day, and it doesn't matter if you're white, brown, yellow, poor, rich. It doesn't matter. You have 24 hours, and most of the time you are on autopilot. You go to your work, you go lunch, you go and you go home, then you go dinner, then you go sit in front of the telly, and then you go to sleep. So but I think the third tip is just to think about the time that you have, and there is much more time than we think. I When I was coaching, a lot of people came into the practice and say, "Oh, but I want to change my life, but I don't have time to change my life." And I say, "Oh, that's interesting. How long do you sleep?" I sleep 8 hours. Okay, you sleep 8 hours. So you have 16 hours left. How many hours do you work? 5, 6, even 8 hours. You have still 8 hours left. And in those 8 hours, you have to do some shopping, you have to do some cooking, you have to watch over the kids. You have a lot of things you have to do every day. But I bet you still have approximately 2, 3 hours a day that are free. So if you want to start a new business, if you want to start meditating, do some sports or whatever, you have the time. So don't tell yourself you don't have time, because there's always time.
Is incredible. I love that. It is always the same. You always hear it from people, I don't have time for this, but actually manage it a little bit better. And if you're passionate and you want it enough, you'll always find the time.
Yeah, that's so funny, because when for example, um, if you are in a group and then things need to be done, it's so funny because the most busy people always have time. That's
It
funny,
is.
isn't it?
It is. Well, thank you for sharing your perspective so openly. Conversations like this exist to normalize the experiences that many people go through quietly as life and responsibility grow. So, if anything that we've spoken about feels familiar, that doesn't mean something is wrong. It just means you're starting to pay attention. You can find more conversations like this through Breathe. And if you want to understand how you're currently operating, you can take the Breathe scorecard at www.breatheblueprint.com. And Marion, how can people get hold of you if they'd like to?
But yeah, you can look me up. It's Marion Neggers, Neggers. If you put my name into Google, there's only one of me, which is very, very handy. So you always come to me. And if I can help you with anything, just let me know.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.